He doesn't need to do this work, and he doesn't need to learn that because he's a poor kid, or he's an abused kid, or he comes from a broken home, or whatever.
You're guaranteeing his grandchildren will also be.
Bingo. Exactly. So we're very tough, and we take no prisoners when it comes to that. We believe that everything in life is about choices, and the sooner you learn that, the better it is. How do I give you the tools to break that, what do we call it, that expectation of your failure?
What things are you doing that increase the likelihood of this child being successful?
We make sure that we help them understand what are the mechanisms that are keeping them down and guaranteeing that they will always be poor, and we help them take responsibility for making a choice of deferring gratification and working towards transforming themselves and their communities into successful communities.
Are there statistics or results that you can point at that in an objective way show your success?
All of our schools are in inner city communities that are schools are failing. All of our schools are performing either within the top 3% in the state or the top 12% in the state. We range from 3% to top 12%. That is...
and these are the same kids that were attending schools that were about to have their charter revoked by the federal government?
Yes, or they were attending schools that were public schools that were absolutely failing, yes.
What you're doing is basically trying to break the cycle of low expectations.
Yes, absolutely. Break the cycle of low expectations.
And teach delayed gratification to achieve success.
Teach delayed gratification to achieve success, that's correct.
Why aren't those two things done everywhere?
It is not politically correct. It is not politically correct to tell a child or a person of color, you have the power, you have a choice. You always have a choice. Even when you have a gun to your head, you have a choice.
Why would they allow the quiet bigotry of low expectations to force failure on their children?
I think that the problem is that our communities are disempowered, and they think that they don't have choices, and thus every few years you see riots. But unfortunately the riots happen within their own neighborhoods.
Yeah, they didn't come and burn cars in my neighborhood.
No, they don't, because they don't have access, and they don't know. Many of these people don't go outside of, a 1 mile radius or a few blocks radius from their houses.
All of your schools are currently K through 8, is that correct?
That is correct.
So you have a kid that's rocking and rolling. They're getting good grades, they're performing at or above grade level, and now you release them to one of the failing high schools in the neighborhood. What happens to them?
We do not do that. We
So
make
what do you
sure
do?
that our students are transferred, or they get into schools that will continue to, unless the parents choose to put them there. But we make sure that all of our kids get transferred to schools that want to continue and enroll them into college. This is our first year in which our first cycle of students are receiving their college acceptance letters. And so we're getting the updates almost on a daily basis of where they're going, how far they're going, how many schools are accepting them, and them having the luxury to say, oh yeah, Northern Arizona accepted me. I don't know if I'm going to go because I'm considering X other school or 20 other schools. So it feels good.
It's like the same situation that my own children are in,
Mm-hmm.
where they have multiple acceptance letters and they get to decide where they want to go.
Yes.
What does the education system in the U.S. most need now?
We need to stop asking the union bosses permission to educate kids.
You'd say we need that more than we need increased funding.
Yes.
How much do you get per pupil per year from the state of California?
We get about $5,100 per pupil per year from the state of California.
Do you have other funding sources?
Yes, we have some federal funds that we receive, so that's about another $2,000 per pupil. And then we also go out and seek grants from private sources, but that's a hit and miss.
Like who? Who's given you a good grant lately?
We get grants from the Walton Foundation. We have gotten
Walton
grants
as
from
in Walmart.
yes, Walton as in Walmart. They're big supporters. So in the last 6 months, we're getting about $1 million from Walmart.
Great. In order to give a child the kind of education that you or I would want for our child, how much money do you need per pupil per year?
In order to give a child a good quality education, it would
World
be
class.
world-class education, about $10,000 per year.
Why should the taxpayers of the United States fund educating your kids to that high world-class level?
I think that the best way for me to say it is it's about making sure that the United States does not become a third world country.
So you think that if we allow significant portions of our population, even though they may be primarily minorities, education slip to far down the ladder, that drives us closer to being a third world nation?
Absolutely. No question about it.
What do my viewers most need to know about the education system in America? What don't we know that we need to know?
I think that one of the things that was a real eye-opening to me was that the system is designed to keep people employed, not to educate people, and it's designed to throw good money after bad. So if you are not good at doing a good job educating folks, you get more money thrown to you. And so therefore you perpetuate the uneducation of the American people.
What you said is that the way the system is set up now, a school district and the administrator of each individual school are incentivized to not provide high quality education to the children. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
How can we shift that?
I'm not sure what the answer to that is. My answer was to open a charter school. I wrote a grant, a federal grant, in December to provide through after school program our model to help other schools and other failing school districts to raise their test scores. And the biggest problem that we had is that our kids here in the inner city were achieving too high, and so therefore we couldn't show that we're currently serving a failing population.
Because you have successfully impacted the lives of the 3,000 students
Yes.
that you have, that adversely impacted your ability to get federal funds to further the process.
Yes.
Are you of service to the community in any way other than running this organization?
One of the things that we do is we collaborate or we partner with organizations like Feed 333, Feed the Children, Free the Children, the Salvation Army, and we deploy armies of people who do the toy donations and the serving of the food.
And most of these people are your employees or parents of your students?
Parents and students.
Parents and
There's
students.
a service requirement component in our.
Please tell us about the service requirement that you put on your students.
Okay, so we believe that it makes no difference if you transform only your immediate neighborhood, because at the end of the day, you need to transform an entire system and an entire society. So we're not only responsible for our local communities, we're responsible for communities across the globe. And so families are responsible for instance, helping villages in Asia or in Africa. We're also responsible for helping homeless kids have toys for Christmas. We're responsible for helping entire families eat for weeks at a time during the holidays or during the rest of the day. We're responsible for going to homeless shelters and working with them, or going to working with our elderly on a daily basis.
Is there a minimum number of hours you require from each child?
No, it's not a base, but it's not based on hours. It's based on projects. They're supposed to begin and complete projects within a specified period of time, and that could be from taking a an elderly person who lives in a home to the movies, or knitting blankets for homeless shelters, or buying cows for a village in Africa who lost all their cows because of drought. So it takes you 2 hours to do, or it takes you 100 hours to do.
Right, because they might have to go out and raise the money to buy a dozen cows or whatever like that.
That is correct.
So you would say it was just kind of there from the beginning.
Yes.
There wasn't a specific moment where it became just, you knew, I'm going to be a servant leader.
Yes. The difference was when the definition of a servant leader. As a very young child and through my young adulthood, I was groomed to serve my family and the well-being of my family. So my interpretation of family was very limited.
It was the people that share your DNA.
The people that share my DNA, I was groomed to make sure that they will never go hungry.
Do you send money to them now?
Yes, I send a lot of money to them now. I've paid for the education of all of my nephews, most of my nephews and nieces, and I take care of my parents. They need nothing. So that was an easy thing to fulfill. The question then became, how do I continue to lead and serve to make sure that my family is always going to be okay? Education is the only way to stop abuse and all the isms, all the wars, most diseases. And that's what I'm called to do.
Why would someone like that want to serve someone or something outside of their own narrowly defined self-interest?
I think it's because it's a self-preservation. Believe it or not, the more you better the world, the better your chances of survival are. The better your chances of somebody not pushing that nuclear button, or somebody not running up to you with a gun and taking the little bit of money you work hard to put the food that you were planning to put on your table, or your expensive car that you work so hard to buy. If it's not for a philosophical reason, then do it for self-preservation. Educated societies or civilized societies.
Do you have a suggestion as to a non-threatening, easy to get involved service project that anyone can do anywhere?
Wow, there's so many fun
So
things
pick a
to
few.
do.
So pick a few.
Oh man, depends on your interests. Usually the easiest thing is to volunteer what you already do.
So if you were an engineer, you could volunteer to teach math to kids.
Yes. Or solve an equation, or, figure out how to dig a ditch for somebody in Haiti, for instance, to get water from the river that's 10 yards away to come down to this arid land just 10 feet away, and it will stop that family or community starving. There's so many things you can do that you already have the tools to do.
And if the viewer were to do that, either that project or some other project that they can imagine, what could they expect to get out of it?
The satisfaction of knowing that they did a little bit more to save the world.
And what's that going to feel like?
It feels good. It feels better than going to dinner at a very expensive restaurant, and it lasts longer.
How long does it last?
I think it lasts forever. I mean, I wake up with a smile on my face every day.
Who are your heroes?
My grandma.
Why?
My grandma was a woman who had no education at all. She was an immigrant from the islands, from Jamaica, who came to Panama as a child, raised multiple kids, and instilled in all of them the need to break that cycle. And she is the product, I am the product of her journey that began in 1907.
Do you teach logic and decision making in your school?
Yes, through project-based learning. So having test scores is one thing, but how are you going to apply it is another thing. And so thus the reason for the servant leadership, their service hours, the studying of the Millennium Development Goal, which is a big service project, and we started in kindergarten. And so you talk about eliminating malaria and eliminating hunger and child mortality.